Welcome to 11 Yards Podcast presented by Legit Football. This is Anthony Weiner of 30 Minutes of Football and Legit Football, and I'm here with Jimmy Ray from at NFL_stats to talk to you about statistics and numbers and all things football. We're almost nearing postseason. What's on your mind, Jimmy?
What's on my mind is Derek Carr being benched for Jarrett Stidham. That's
move.
crazy.
I mean,
what a move.
Is that good? Is that what they really want? What's going to happen to Derek Carr next year after all that?
Derek Carr's gone. He's got to be gone.
For another team? Is he going to back up? A lot can happen.
I mean, based off what it seems like, he had a potential out for this upcoming offseason. I think they're technically in the playoff front still, but they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I saw a graphic. It said they have less than a 1% chance to make playoffs.
Yeah, that was the Colts a couple weeks ago, and then that slowly died. I mean, there's a lot has to go perfect, so you can basically call them out until like 100 different things go right. Because with a under 1% chance, that's kind of what has to happen. But yeah, they'll save money by. It seems like cutting him, they won't lose too much money. He had a pretty team friendly deal. He just wasn't doing it. He wasn't leading them anywhere close to the promised land. And he has a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball at times. They should be a lot better than they are. So very surprising, but I'm not against teams just cutting the QB out and trying to find something different.
Yeah, I mean, you have Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. That's really all I need to say. So now all you need is a quarterback that can use them and really get that offense going, because that's what they've been struggling on all year. What is offense? And they haven't been able to get to the end zone. And you have Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers knew how to use them. You need a quarterback who knows how to throw Devontae Adams, because he's going to be open no matter what. He's going to catch anything you throw at him. Derek Carr did not know that. That's why he's spending the rest of the season on the bench. And I think that says a lot of how the Raiders season has gone.
Yeah. And then looking at it from a head coaching perspective, so that was one scapegoat that the Raiders chose, because Josh McDaniels is a new head coach. They must have gone with him. Obviously, people were calling for his head as well. But they're going to keep the new coaching staff. They kind of said that earlier in the season. But then Nathaniel Hackett, very opposite there, to where Russell Wilson, you can't get rid of him. So you have to get rid of Nathaniel Hackett at this point. Nathaniel Hackett, was he a good coach? Did he have a good season? Not at all. Was he helped by his quarterback? Not at all. But it's a tale of two different stories, and you can't say, oh, it was all Russell Wilson's fault. It's a lot of different faults, and you just have to clean house. The only unfortunate part is Russell Wilson is there to stay. Can he play better? That's what it comes down to for the Broncos, because I don't think a new head coach is going to come in and magically fix that by themselves.
How much blame do you put on Hackett versus how much blame do you put on Russell Wilson? Because he's not looked like himself, not like he was in Seattle. But he had Pete Carroll, which is he's a better coach than Hackett. At least he at least knew how to run an offense, where Hackett seems to be confused. You're talking a defensive-minded coach trying to run an offense with Russell Wilson. Even Jerry Jeudy is a decent receiver, and Cortland Sutton before he got hurt, and he didn't do it, and now he lost his job. So do you think that the next coach in is going to know how to use Russell Wilson, or is he washed? Is he done?
Oh, I mean, I still think there's a chance, but I mean, there's just been it's not just like, he's had a bad few games here and there. Like Aaron Rodgers, he's been fine this year. He's had a few off games, but he doesn't have much help. Russell Wilson, he just hasn't looked himself, and he hasn't been getting. We thought they would have 2 wide receivers in the top 12 in fantasy. That's not even close to what is happening at all. And if I put out a poll right now, I'd say a lot of people would put all the blame on Russell Wilson. It'd probably be like an 80-20 split, blaming Russell Wilson just because he's, I feel like, more in the spotlight as a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more like 60-40 Russell Wilson, 65-35, something like that. Tyler, I recognize that last name too. Hackett said it's hard to coach a quarterback who has more bathrooms in his house than touchdowns. That was a fake post. If you aren't already able to tell that,
he definitely knows that's a fake post. But that's hilarious.
From Ballsack Sports, I guess.
There's this because I mean he does. He has more bathrooms than he does touchdowns, and if he ends a season like that, it really comes to show what the Broncos
I think that was
like, or offense.
Yeah, I think that was from Ballsack Sports, and I mean, there's a little bit of truth in every fake quote like that.
It's hilarious.
Because he has a lot of bathrooms. Yeah, Tyler knew. He has a lot of bathrooms and not a lot of touchdowns, and that's just a fact.
Right.
Did Nathaniel Hackett say that? No, but is everyone else saying that? Absolutely.
It's like what was that one game? I think I forgot who announced it. I think it was Chris Collinsworth, but like 3 years ago, I think Tom Brady scored like 5 touchdowns, and then he goes, "That's more than they have Gatorade buckets," and they had like the whole table of Gatorade. Well, one of the Gatorade buckets got tipped over on one of the on a play, and so he was making a joke that there were more touchdowns that Tom Brady threw than there was Gatorade on the field, and I just thought that was a funny way to put that. So that's what that Russell Wilson thing reminds me of.
We love a good stat. We love a good stat.
So anyway, we're gonna get into weekly the weekly stats, and we have a familiar face up here at number 1. In his
Derek
win
Carr
against New England. 22-18, he threw for 40 for 52, 375 yards for 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His name is Joe Burrow. He's been very productive all year, especially with Jamar Chase on the other end. Even T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd have been good stepping up. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it was the tale of a different week. Joe Burrow had a really good first half this week. Last week, we know he trampled it in the second half. He got 4 tuds in the second half. This week, he balled out in the first half. It wasn't as close as it looks, I don't think. I think the Bengals still played pretty well. Burrow made some mistakes down the stretch. He threw it 52 times.
22-0 at one point, I believe. And so New England was really just coming back in that second half. And I mean, Joe Burrow did what he needed to get it done.
Right. Yeah.
So there is a name on here, unlike the others. Can you pick it out?
Let me see. So we have Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott. Probably, is it Dak? Is that who you're talking about? Or are you talking about Jared?
Gardner Minshew.
The
backup for Philadelphia, number 2. He threw for 40 attempts, completed 24, 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He lost against Dallas. And I'm going to cover this a lot in the fantasy episode tomorrow because I said that Minshew might have been a sit, and I was wrong. But he destroyed that Dallas defense, and that's not easy to do. I thought they were going to focus more on the run game, and Gardner Minshew came out swinging, and the first play was like a 40-yard pass, and it was incredible. So he definitely fought hard against Dallas. Shows that Minshew still is the best quarterback or backup quarterback in the league. What do you think?
I mean, Minshew Mania always belongs in the top 5, man. He doesn't stand out ever. And I mean, I don't think they should rush Jalen Hurts back at this point. They play the Saints and the Giants upcoming.
Wait till postseason. You have a first-round bye. Wait until that playoff game to put Jalen Hurts, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I think they have a pretty good chance of the first-round bye because they have the tiebreaker on the they have a tiebreaker on the Vikings, I believe. Correct?
Yes, I believe so.
They did beat them. And they're 1 game ahead of them, and there's only 2 weeks left, so it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and then so in the Detroit horrible loss against Carolina on Christmas Eve, Jared Goff 25 for 42, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns. So the stats were good. A lot of this was in the second half, trying to come back. You lose by 3 possessions. It's not looking good. Yeah. It was definitely a fluke. Dan Campbell did say that Carolina was more prepared. And so I think they're kind of going to be going into Chicago a little bit more prepared than they were. Any thoughts on Jared Goff?
Yeah. I mean, the defense did not help them out at all. It was just Jared Goff played all right.
He played all right.
The stat line was really good, But, I mean, Panthers were running it down their throat, so they couldn't really get much momentum at that point when the Panthers were controlling the game.
Dak Prescott won against Philadelphia, 40-34, 27-35, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Got sacked 6 times. This was the most a quarterback got sacked this week. That's harsh for Prescott, especially with the injuries he's been dealing with. So what's going on with that Dallas offensive line? They figured out how to win. He got the ball to CeeDee Lamb multiple times, which that's what a lot of these stats are. Yeah. What's happening with Dak? Because he got hit 6 times. That's not good.
No, it's not good at all. There's some question marks there. Especially when they got back some key offensive linemen. So they need to figure some stuff out there. But The Eagles have gotten 6 sacks plus in 4 straight games, which is only the second team to do that since the 1976 49ers,
Wow.
since the Super Bowl era. So that's pretty good. So you can't really fault the Cowboys, the offensive line, too much. Give a lot of credit to the Eagles.
So Daniel Jones in his loss against Minnesota, 30 for 42, 334 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked 3 times. A lot of these yards I know were in the fourth quarter trying to break that tie, because I mean this was a shootout up until it was 24-24, win to overtime, or it didn't go into overtime. Minnesota kicked a field goal, 61 yards to beat the Giants at home. Daniel Jones was he was productive but couldn't get the job done. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, not too many thoughts here. Daniel Jones has been playing a lot better than he has in the past this season. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him in the offseason with his 5th-year option.
All right. So
Right.
before we get into rushing leaders, do you have any stats you'd like to share with us?
Brock Purdy, he's been playing really well. He doesn't show up in this stat line, but his passer rating has been tremendous. He's only the second QB to have multiple touchdowns and start 3-0 in their first 3 starts. Do you know who else did that? Since
No.
1950. Kurt Warner. That's it.
Kurt Warner. Okay.
Yeah. So pretty good there.
Yeah. So no surprise here. D'Onta Foreman did destroy the Detroit defense and ran 21 carries for 165 yards, 7.9 average, and a touchdown. So D'Onta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard are both on here, first and third, because they both double-handedly destroyed the Detroit rush defense, which they were doing very good for a while. And this really shows that Carolina is still out for blood. They definitely relied on the run game here. Sam Darnold didn't really have to do much. What do you think about D'Onta Foreman here? Because he's kind of come up from the bottom this year.
I mean, they're going crazy. They both had over 100 yards before the first half even ended. So, I mean, this was just absolutely dominant performance from the Panthers offensive line and their running scheme as a whole. So shout out to them. Is D'Onta Foreman a Pro Bowler? Probably not, but he's sure as hell playing like one. 7.9 yards per carry. Is it Chuba Hubbard is playing well too. So I mean, just they've been a pretty good, consistent rushing attack on offense for most of the year. The past couple of weeks have not been as good, so it's nice to see them getting back on track with a chance at the playoffs.
Oh, for sure. I mean, do you think Carolina misses Christian McCaffrey? Because I don't
Probably
think so.
not.
No, I mean,
their running game hasn't really stopped too much, and getting some picks back for that. And they weren't going to make the Super Bowl anyway, so I think it was the right call.
I can definitely see a future with D'Onta Foreman in Carolina.
Yeah.
So number 2 is Derrick Henry, 23 carries, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Any thoughts?
Not really. He always puts up this stat line. He didn't have as many attempts. I will say that he probably won't play this week because on Thursday night there's not much to play for because the Titans and Jaguars, it'll come down to the last week when they play each other. That's the only thing that matters at this point.
Yeah.
If you look into those playoff spots, so whoever wins that game will make the playoffs.
And then I'm proud to talk about number 4 because last Thursday I said that Cam Akers was my start of the week, and he did produce 23 carries, 118 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I want to say I called it. There, I got it out of the way. Because Cam Akers still is getting the most carries of any running back in the last 4 weeks. The Rams are definitely relying on him after losing Stafford. The pass game hasn't been open. Even Cooper Kupp's not out there. So relying on that run game with Cam Akers, who's still young talent, scoring 3 touchdowns against a good Denver defense. Granted, Denver is more popular for stopping the pass, so they were unable to stop the run, and Cam Akers definitely ran right through them. What do you think about Cam Akers?
Yeah, it's good to see him doing well, especially with how the season started for him. And 3 touchdowns that's a very good start, calling your shot start of the week for a running back. You can't get much better than that many points.
Yeah. Whoever had Cam Akers in their lineup, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Kenneth Walker, fifth, 26 carries, 107 yards, 0 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker has been hitting a lot of 100-yard games. There's something special here. They played Kansas City. A lot of this was trying to come back. Kansas City definitely pounded them. I thought I did bet on the spread for Seattle to cover the spread. I was dead wrong. But Kenneth Walker, any thoughts?
Kenneth Walker is going to be a good running back for years to come. He's very good, and he was a great pick for the Seahawks. Will it translate into wins and playoff success? We'll see, because the running back isn't necessarily the biggest factor when it comes to that, I feel like, in terms of position. But it's great to have a young guy back there. Let's see if they can build a good defense around him and offense around him.
Yeah, very, very true. Now on to receiving leaders. Number one, Jalen Waddle. And their loss against Green Bay, 26-20. 5 receptions for 143 yards. The average was 28.6 yards, and he got 1 touchdown. This is wild, because 28.6 is not that's a high average. That's probably the highest I've seen an average with like 5 receptions or less or more. And 143 yards and 5 receptions is very, Tua relied on him during this game. They couldn't beat him. He threw that pick at the fourth quarter in that 2-minute drill at the end to lose. But Jalen Waddle was definitely his main target. What do you think?
Yeah, that 84-yard pass for a touchdown really sealed the deal on that stat. And then everything else was 4 receptions for 59 yards. So not too good, but the stat line looks amazing. 5 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. But that touchdown to start the game was the icing on the cake for that stat line.
That's that Dolphins team that we were calling playoffs for, but Tua in the second half looked disoriented. He didn't look like himself. Jalen Waddle couldn't even get open. It was pretty bad. I did notice that, he was making decisions that he would have never made. Like, he was making decisions like he did last year when he first started playing, and it wasn't working, and they ended up losing they needed to win this game. And as a Lions fan, I didn't like seeing Green Bay win on Christmas, so that was lame.
Yeah. The biggest thing, he was diagnosed with concussion after the game. You could see kind of where the hit happened, and after his stats afterwards, not great at all. So unfortunately, another concussion for Tua. I believe his second diagnosed, maybe 3 with that first back/head injury. Hopefully he heals up and just take some time to rest, and hopefully his career continues without too much of that.
Yeah, for sure. He's a good quarterback when he has to be. Number 2, Justin Jefferson, and their win against the Giants, 27-24. 12 receptions for 133 yards, 11.1 average, 1 touchdown. No surprise here. Justin Jefferson has been making the top 5 since the beginning of the season. This guy is insane, and Kirk Cousins knows how to use him.
Yeah, I believe he's at the 7th now with the most in terms of most receiving yards in a single season. He needs a couple more. With a 17-game season, he'll have it pretty easy if he hits around 133 yards each of the last 2 games. He'll break the record, obviously with more games than usual. But yeah, he's always up here.
Number 3, we have T. Higgins in their win against New England, 22-18. 8 receptions for 128 yards and 1 touchdown. Not much to talk about here. T. Higgins was definitely reliable when Jamar Chase was covered by that New England secondary. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Not much to say other than T. Higgins is always around here, and there's always a Bengals wide receiver in the top 5.
Oh yeah, CeeDee Lamb was a very high factor in their win against Philadelphia. 10 receptions, 120 yards, 12 average, and 2 touchdowns. If this wasn't sorted by yards, I would put CeeDee Lamb at number 1 for this week because he was crucial in that victory. What do you think? CeeDee Lamb's coming up. He's one of the better receivers of his class and in the whole league right now. What do you think?
Yeah, he's very good. He'll continue to be good for the Dallas Cowboys. Not much to say there. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb get along just fine.
And now we have a tight end, George Kittle, San Francisco, in their win against Washington, 37-20. 6 receptions for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. So considering this was Brock Purdy passing to him, the same thing happened last week. Brock Purdy and George Kittle. and they were college rivals too. So it's really fun to see them play like this on the same team.
Right. And then George Kittle's the first 49ers player to have back-to-back or multiple receiving touchdowns in back-to-back games since Terrell Owens in
Wow,
2002.
that's crazy.
So George Kittle is balling out as well. They're getting along even better, or just as fine, just more consistently. But Mr. Relevant is very, very much getting along with Kittle.
So before we wrap up the show, I want to go over the aggregated statistics. So Patrick Mahomes is still number one in total, and I believe he's soon about to beat a record. Do you know what this record is, Jimmy?
I don't. Do you?
It's the single season passing yards record, which is currently held by, I believe it's Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And so he's going to beat Drew Brees in his single season pass yards record. And that could easily happen in our new 17 game season, which I think a lot of records are going to be broken because of that extra game, which we all saw coming. And I think Patrick Mahomes can easily beat this. He's very productive. And I mean, he has Travis Kelce, and he's been his main target. So he keeps getting to Travis Kelce and Smith-Schuster, and he's going to beat this record.
Yeah, I believe it looks like Peyton Manning actually has the record at 5,477 yards. I knew he has it by 1 yard. He broke it in 2013. So I mean, it's very close. But Patrick Mahomes will have to play almost perfectly, I feel like, to get that record. That's over 700 yards away, which I mean he could easily get, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And then we have Joe Burrow at second, Justin Herbert at third, Tom Brady at fourth, and then Kirk Cousins at fifth, which he is new in the top 5 of the aggregated stats. Kirk Cousins made it to the top 5 in the total passing yards. So good for him. He has Justin Jefferson on his side, so that's no surprise there. Yeah. Rushing yards, Josh Jacobs still leads. Then we have Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders. It's the same as it was 2 weeks ago. With the order of the running back, so not much to talk about here. They've all just been doing a really good job. Josh Jacobs, I feel like, hasn't been productive enough to make his team win, but he's been productive enough to lead in rushing for multiple weeks. And I think that's really good for the future. Maybe not for the season, but for the future. Josh Jacobs has that like Jonathan Taylor-esque talent.
Yeah, and he'll be a free agent this upcoming season. So whoever he signs with, we'll see how it goes, but he should get some good running back money.
Oh, for sure. Receiving, we have Justin Jefferson in first place, then Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Austin Eckler, and Travis Kelce. I had Travis Kelce down here twice.
He did so good, he made it twice.
Yeah. So we do have a tight end here, which is, I mean, no surprise. This is actually sorted by receptions. I forgot to sort it by yards. That's on me. But by receptions, Jefferson, Hill, Diggs, Eckler, Kelce. I'm gonna go look for the stats for yards because I really want to see that. Do you have any stats you want to share?
Yeah. So the Keenan Allen had 100 yards in the Monday night game against the Colts. It's his first 100-yard game in over a year from November of 2021. So first time this season. He's been banged up a little bit and not himself, so it's good to see him back on track. Absolutely killing the Colts secondary. One more too, the 49ers, they haven't allowed a 60-yard rusher this season.
Whoa.
Against the Falcons, yeah. Against the Falcons, they did let up 3 50-yard rushers, but we don't have to talk about that because, I mean, they still haven't allowed a single player to have 60 yards in a game. So their defense is phenomenal.
So I did just bring a new stat sheet in. This is sorted by yards. So the actual order is Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Adams. All very good receivers on very good teams, except the Raiders. But Devontae Adams is going to be good no matter who's throwing to him because he can catch anything. If it's 20 yards away, he'll find a way to get it. And so that's any thoughts on the receiving stats?
Not really. I mean, these top 5 wide receivers are some of the most dominant players in the NFL. So they're definitely, and Tyreek Hill's on a new team. Justin Jefferson's fairly new. Stephon Diggs They were both part of the trade with the Bills and Vikings. Devontae Adams got traded. AJ Brown got traded. We have 3 new wide receivers on new teams right here.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about the wide receivers and how well they can improve the numbers for a specific team.
Yeah, and that's huge, especially for the teams who acquired these players, because they've been very productive.
Right.
Leading in sacks, we have Nick Bosa, no surprise there. Then Matt Judon, Hassan Reddick, Myles Garrett, and then Micah Parsons. The sacks I just wanted to bring up because when you have a defender that can sack as good as like Bosa or Judon, those are crucial plays. Sometimes they're game changers, sometimes they're game winners. So I think that talking about sacks is really important. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, a few of these guys are on dominant defenses. They make their defenses dominant with how much pressure with how much attention they acquire from other teams. You have to game plan against them, or you're screwed.
For sure. And San Francisco has proven to be one of the better defenses, and Nick Bosa has a lot to do with that.
Right.
Well, that's all I have today. Any last thoughts, Jimmy?
One more stat. The Raiders have 9 losses this season. 8 have come from one possession.
Wow. So it's like Minnesota, but the other way around.
Right. Yeah. Minnesota has 12 wins, and 11 of them have come from one possession. So it's really, I mean, you have to play well in the final few minutes of the game. The witching hour, as Scott Hansen says, it's crucial to turn those losses into wins and not have it the other way around, because that's what's been happening for the Raiders. Imagine if they had just a few more wins under their belt. That's 8 one-possession games that they've lost. That's quite a lot percentage-wise. That's almost 90% of their one-possession games they've lost. So very unfortunate for them.
Yeah, and when it comes down to the last minutes, you have to find a way to win, whether that's on offense or defense.
Right.
So we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Jimmy, for coming on. It was fun talking about football with you for another week. Enjoy this week's games.
Yep. See you next year, guys.
See ya.